Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you've had a great day. The storms are by us. No more rain, at least not for a while. I don't see any in the forecast. Lots of mountains. I'm sorry, lots of snow on the surrounding mountains here in the Coachella Valley. Quite a bit, actually. It looks beautiful. Keeping the valley floor a little bit cool, but yet it's still warming up nicely in the day. I think it was around 80 today. Pretty nice day, actually, all around. So I hope you had a good week. So, as much as we need to know about sexual abuse and what it is, we need to know what it's not. And it's real simple, actually, but I still want to talk about it briefly and then a few other things tonight. We'll end chapter 1 tonight. There's so much in this book, and I'm doing a presentation on forgiveness right now. I was looking through my book, getting ready for it. I've got a whole presentation done on PowerPoint, but I was reviewing chapter 12, which is forgiveness in my book, a little bit earlier, and I forgot how much is in the book about it, how much information about forgiveness, what it is, what it isn't. There's just a lot of stuff. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get this opportunity. And I'm grateful that I'm sober today. Actually, I will say this, February 5th, this coming Sunday, and it's the exact same day as a matter of fact, February 5th in 2006, I will be celebrating 11 years of sobriety, 11 years being clean and sober. And not only celebrating sobriety, but more importantly, celebrating the true meaning of recovery. So I'm grateful for that. And it's only by the grace of God that I'm remaining sober today. And it's only by that grace, same grace, that I'm able to talk about my past in a way that helps others instead of a way that victimizes myself like it used to. So, I posted a real simple paragraph this morning from on page 31 of my book, Getting Started, chapter 1, Getting Started. And it was important to talk about what sexual abuse is not. What sexual abuse is not. So there's a fine line, and we got to be careful of that. The rest of that paragraph says, if a parent or older sibling or friend cracks a sexual joke about a child, and that child feels momentarily uncomfortable, but the feeling passes because the child has a home with healthy boundaries, feels safe expressing his emotions, and is capable of isolating the incident, sexual abuse is probably not involved. Hey, son, how you doing? Good to see you tonight. Sexual abuse is probably not involved. You know, I'm gonna get real and transparent a little bit here tonight. That if you're, especially men, this is what my therapist told me, and this got me out of my denial, or not. That's the wrong word. It broke through to full forgiveness from my stepfather on this night. And, there's a certain progression that we learn about our sexuality. And the reality is it really doesn't, and it's not supposed to involve an adult. We get to a certain age, or laying around on the floor. I mean, I can remember it. I got this funny feeling in my crotch. You go, man, what's that all about? And you kind of start exploring, and next thing you know, you got an erection. It's like, wow, what's this about? And then so you do your own natural exploring, and then at a certain age, maybe a girl becomes involved. And then when that girl becomes involved, then maybe you start discovering what she's like. But the whole key to this is you discover your sexuality yourself. You discover what you like and don't like yourself. An adult is not forcing themselves on you. Adult is not forcing themselves on you. There's a natural, God-given progression that we're supposed to go through. And unfortunately, too many people in this world, me being one of them, we don't get to enjoy that part of life. It's taken away from us. We don't get to figure out what we like and don't like. It's just we're exposed to things we shouldn't be exposed to. So, if you're, hanging around with your friends when you're 12, 13 years old, you're going through puberty, that's just a natural part of growing up. Again, this goes really deep. This is really complex. I'm just kind of touching on some brief issues, okay? Because the fact is, it is really not possible to turn this gray area into perfectly delineated patches of black and white. Because if you start doing that, people start misinterpreting, and I know that people do misinterpret a lot of stuff, and they twist things to make it fit them. I mean, they even do it with the Bible, which drives me crazy. There's certain things in the Bible, certain scriptures they'll use to threaten kids with, but they forget about the scriptures that tell parents, hey, don't anger your children, don't provoke your children to anger. You'd be better off if you cause a little one to sin and fall in sin, you'd be better off with a millstone tied around your neck and thrown in the lake. So people, even in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, they skip over stuff. They twist things to their advantage. And we can't be doing that with sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is sexual abuse. Anything that's not natural. Okay? And the reality is right now for our healing, it's really not necessary. Hey, David, glad you joined. Alfred, how you doing, guys? For the healing of us, it's really not necessary. We know that if we've been abused, or we know if we haven't been abused. There's a feeling deep inside of us. The first time I was abused, I knew it. I felt it, and it wasn't fun. Okay, I knew the feeling that was there, and it was a gut feeling. So there's no, we don't really need to define that fine line in order to heal from it. You know, here's the thing: is that whether an action is intended as sexual abuse can only be known by the mind of the perpetrator. You know, he said, well, I didn't mean it, to be abuse. Well, I don't know, did he or didn't he? And like it says, like I said in the book, only the perpetrator knows that, or the person knows that. And that's a fine line. I mean, as an adult, I know what's right and what's wrong. So how can, I consider, we could argue that point back and forth, is how can he not know that it was abuse? It's a fine line on that. But even if the perpetrator didn't intend the action to be abusive, okay, maybe he didn't intend it. We hear that all the time. Well, I was just kidding with the child, but it's highly likely that the child will live. Sorry, I might have missed something here. If a child experiences that touch negatively, I'm sorry, I missed a point. If that child experiences that experience negatively, and he's got that funny feeling in him, and it makes him not feel uncomfortable, then it's highly likely the child will live out patterns of an abused child. And those patterns are low self-esteem, low self-worth, a lot of anger, unaddressed anger, because actually anger is an okay emotion. It was used rightly, so it's usually the rage that's the bad part of it. So I put in the book, you're probably living out the experience of a sexually abused child if, and these are pretty legit, if you feel afraid of an adult or older child touching you, talking to you, or exposing himself or herself to you. So if that's making you feel uncomfortable, you have a right to ask them to stop. And if you ask them to stop and they don't, it's abuse. There's no way around it. It is abuse. Okay? And then if you leave that situation and they tell you not to tell your mom or your dad or whoever, then even more so it's abuse. Because if it's not abuse, why can't you tell your mom or your dad? That's one you got to think about. If it's not abuse, if there's nothing wrong with what they're doing to you or what they've done to me, how can it be anything but abuse, or not be anything but abuse? Okay. If you feel coerced into staying silent about sexual contact of any kind, or if you feel dirty or ashamed of what other people did to you as a child. So those are all feelings that I'm not going to say you were sexually abused, but those are feelings you got to start looking at. Hey, what's this about? What's going on here? And that's when you want to sit down with a professional or somebody that's walked through the process and can help you figure out if you were sexually abused or not. We had one gentleman that, he was confused. Was I sexually abused? Was I wasn't? And then it revealed to us that when he was a really young child, he had had penile surgery, or testes surgery, or something down there. That manifests as sexual abuse a lot of times, when in fact it's not. And when we were able to give him that answer, Carol Totterbaum gave it to him after one of our meetings. He felt so much relief. He felt so better that now I know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Now I know I'm okay. Now I know I wasn't sexually abused. Okay. So there's a lot of feelings that are attached to sexual abuse or perceived sexual abuse that we have to be aware of as well. Okay. The truth is, though, that any form of contact that made you uncomfortable as a child can cause you to feel ashamed, less than, and dirty. Okay? A lot of those things can make you feel ashamed, less than, or dirty. So I think the keys are here is if you say, if you feel uncomfortable and you feel dirty, and you say, please stop, and they don't, that's abuse. Or if you walk away and they say, don't tell nobody, that's abuse. Okay? We're not supposed to feel dirty and less than and tainted and ashamed as children. We're supposed to be loved. We're supposed to be brought up in love and meant to feel good about ourselves. You guys are listening. You guys have been and are listening to me for a reason. So trust yourself and know that you have a right to heal from whatever hurting you, whatever is hurting you. Okay, whatever that hurt is. And we got to make sure too that we define. Remember, there's sexual, there's physical, emotional, and spiritual abuse. I just happen to run the gamut, all four of them. But any one of those can cause a lot of these feelings of feeling less than, worthless. Emotional abuse, being told all the time you'll never amount to nothing, never meeting up to our parents' expectations or our teachers' expectations. The physical abuse, why am I being beat all the time? You know, what did I do wrong? I'm just a kid. Why am I getting beat all the time? So there's the four different kinds of abuse. So it's important that you recognize and identify what abuse has happened to you. Okay. You're watching this, so I'm thinking you're either curious about it or something might have happened. I pray that nothing happened, that you just want to get a little information about the sexual abuse. That is my honest to God truth. That's my prayer for everybody. Man, I don't want anybody to go through this crap. I hesitated to draw the line in the sand because it could lead to the process of keeping score. That's the thing, is there's no keeping score on this. At the beginning of the book, I think at the end of this chapter I even put it in there, this is not about assigning blame. This is about hope and healing. But in order to heal, there's a lot of questions we got to ask. We have to look at a lot of different things in our life. Okay, so it's not about keeping score. It's not about blaming. There's two detrimental counts that I got. There's no degree of pain that has any meaning when it comes to the recovery process. Pain is pain. My pain's my pain, your pain's your pain. Is it less or more? I don't know, but your pain is your pain. That's all there is to it. If you're hurting, you need to address the hurt and heal it. The cause of the pain is less important than the process of recovery. Because until you can find out what the cause of the pain is, the recovery won't be able to proceed. My cousin does body work. She's a life coach. She was telling me a story about sitting in the pain and figuring out where it's really coming from. And she broke both of her arms. And so she used to put ice. She used to get a bad pain in her right wrist, she would tell me. Just last month I was talking for Christmas. And so she iced her wrist all the time and the pain would never go away. And she tells everybody she's working with physically, you need to sit where the pain and see where the pain's really coming from. So she decided one day, I'm not going to ice it. I'm going to sit with my pain. I want to know where this pain's coming from. And as she did that, the pain got worse and worse and became excruciating. She just kept on breathing and meditating. And by the end of the day, she had figured out that the pain wasn't in her wrist. The pain was actually coming from her elbow. So we need to find out where the pain is really coming from. It might manifest itself as anger, as shame, but where's that actually coming from? What's the core of that emotion? And that's what we need to figure out. And that's In my view, that's what true recovery is all about. It's tempting to fall into the trap of assigning blame rather than getting on with the recovery process. Assigning blame is not necessary to your healing process, and in many cases can be highly detrimental. If we're in recovery, we know we got to start looking at ourselves. I blamed everybody in my life for everything that happened to me. What happened to me happened to you. You'd be acting this way too. We have to take responsibility for our own actions. Yes, I was abused, okay? And yes, I acted inappropriately. But once I got into recovery, I had no more excuses. I couldn't blame my actions on my abuse no longer, because people were telling me, Randy, we're going to validate your feelings because what happened to you is wrong, and we understand that. But we're going to walk you through that because you got to quit blaming everything on your abuse. It doesn't work no more. Okay, the abuse stopped when I was 18 years old. And here I am, 49, walking into recovery, and still blaming everything on the abuse that stopped when I was 18. But that takes time. It took really good sponsors and mentors and a lot of work with not only my sponsors and mentors, but with my therapist as well. As I mentioned earlier, it's important to label abuses as either physical, sexual, emotional, or spiritual, because each type of abuse leaves a specific wound patterns, and some treatments are more effective for certain kinds of abuse. So what works for the sexual abuse might not work for the physical abuse, and vice versa, and down the line. And not only that, when we speak at facilities, we tell the clinicians that, and good clinicians know this, every client, every person, you can't have a cookie cutter treatment plan. There has to be adjustments for each individual client. If somebody would have come in and treated me harshly, it'd have shut me down in 2 seconds. But for somebody else, they might need that drill sergeant mentality. But so we have to learn how to adjust, and everybody's going to be treated different. What's up, Coulter Bud? One thing that hinders men is specifically men from starting their healing process is those pesky man rules. Remember those? Don't show your weakness. Don't show your emotions. Don't show your feelings. Suck it up. Be a man. Figure it out. Remember all those? Yeah. So when I got on my recovery, I came up with my own rules with the help of my therapist and sponsors and everybody else. And the rules that made sense to me, rules that were compassionate and that made me better, stronger, and a more loving man. So my rules are this, and these are all in my book. It is not merely acceptable to feel weak and vulnerable. It is essential. It is essential. Because that's how I grow and become better and stronger. Now, remember, the weak and vulnerable, there's a time and place for it. And there's a time for the man rules that we gotta honor too. You know, in a board meeting, we can't be weak and vulnerable. You know, so we gotta really fine tune these a little bit. So just be aware of that. You can't be weak and vulnerable in front of everybody because you might get laughed out of the boardroom, and that's just going to do more damage. Okay. Now we get out of the boardroom. You call your sponsor, your mentor, your therapist, whoever, and say, "Hey, man, I got to talk to you because I was in a board meeting and I felt really weak and vulnerable, and I didn't know. I'm lucky I made it out of there, and have that person help you through it." I think if David's still on here, when I first met him, I was in a meeting with him, him and several other very prominent therapists, and I was sitting in that meeting in that group. And I said, "Man, I don't feel like I belong in here." That's how I felt, and I knew I could safely say that with these men because I knew who they were and what they believed in. And it was good to say that, and then they also, "Randy, you do belong in here, so you're going to be fine. Don't worry about it." So we have to know who we're talking with. That's very important. Reaching out for help not only saves me time and money, it saves the people around me too. You know, countless men, and I understand, we don't want to pick up the phone and weighs 5,000 pounds. We don't want to pick up the phone. We're men, we got to figure it out. And Men all the time, man, I was going to call you the other day and I just didn't feel like it. Call me, pick up the phone and call me. That's what I'm here for. That's what people did for me. We're here to help each other. We can't do this alone. We have to reach out for help. A couple of them recently haven't reached out for help, and they're in a lot of trouble. And there's nothing I can do about it. I just love them, and but they choose. It's their choice. So it's important that we reach out for help because it's going to save you one day. Any child, male or female, can be sexually abused and needs special help to heal from the trauma. So that, you hear all the time, just get over it. It doesn't happen that way. If a person's been sexually abused, about 75%, they say, of trauma victims of any kind of trauma will go on to have a good life. And that our theory is that's because that person got help at a very early age. They have supportive parents. They have a supportive a team around them that's really supported them. And so they were able to walk through it. But for those of us that didn't get the help, we need that help. And it takes time. It takes time. So it's important that we get the help. Sexual abuse, as you all know, is not the child's fault. If you don't know it, I want you to drill that into your head, that sexual abuse is not your fault in any way, shape, form at all. Okay? And just because men have an erection doesn't mean they want to be touched or violated. I'll elaborate on that just a little bit, and then we'll close. One of the men in our group, at the end of it, right towards the end, he says, I just got to say something. And he says, okay, he says. He kind of hesitated. And he says, you know what? It felt good when he was doing it to me. Which is, yeah, it's going to feel good. But that doesn't mean that you want it to happen. What are you going to do when you're touched a certain way? We have no control over physiologically over our body when we're touched in a certain manner. So it's going to feel good. And we might get an erection. But that doesn't mean that we wanted the abuse to happen. The shame that's carried with that thought is so bad that that night, that man went home, wrote a suicide letter, checked himself into a mental hospital. Now, he's okay. He's doing really good today. He did the right thing. But we had to really assure him that you're okay. All right. So just because we get an erection, somebody comes in and starts abusing it, doesn't mean we wanted it. So if anybody tells, and we hear it all the time, well, he had an erection, he wanted it. No, that doesn't mean nothing. So, just be kind to yourself. Inside if you were or you weren't, and maybe you don't yet, maybe you're still trying to figure it out. I'm hoping maybe this gave you a couple little hints to better decipher if you were sexually abused or not. Most of the men that I know that are on here, I believe, know where they stand. Just take care of yourself, love yourself, reach out to the men that are there for you. We have a group the first and third Tuesday of every month in Rancho Mirage. It's a sexual abuse group for men. It's facilitated by Carol Teitelbaum. She's the one that started It Happens to Boys. But we have about 50 men registered for that group, but only about 6 to 10 show up on a regular basis. And it's just somewhere to go and talk, and you'll realize that you're not alone in the way you feel. So if you want to know more about that, you guys can message me. I think I might lose you guys. I'm going to walk you in the other room. So hopefully I don't. If I do, I apologize. My workshop was phenomenal this weekend. Very successful. The couples really had a good time. They learned a lot. So we're planning, working on another one right now. It might be forgiveness or intimacy. Hopefully in March we'll do that one. If you need help, I'm out there as a life coach. Just changeyourlifestorynow.com. Go ahead and visit that, and you'll see what I do on there. Or call me, post me directly, whatever. Just message me. We'll sit down and talk about how I can help you. I'm looking for clients right now. I got my office set up right here in my house. We've been getting it all nice and pretty. Courageous Healers website, courageoushealers.org, courageoushealers.org. It's almost done. My old one's still up, but the new one is almost complete. And when that's complete, it'll be a lot more user-friendly, a lot prettier. So you can visit that. You can get my book, Healing the Man Within, at Amazon.com, or if you live here in Coachella Valley, the local Barnes & Noble in Palm Desert has it in their store right now. And then my Ride Across America is in the full swing. I'm 3 weeks into my fundraising campaign, and it appears that I have already raised half of my money. That's a substantial amount of money. I'm absolutely in awe and amazed and so grateful for those that are stepping up. But I still need quite a bit of money. So if you have the desire to help me out, just go to GoFundMe.com, stomp out shame. GoFundMe.com/stomp out shame. I'll be putting another thing on Facebook this week as well. But we're leaving June 18th. I'm leaving June 18th. I'm leaving for that. And let's see what else. I think that's it. But yeah, it's should be good. So, hey, everybody, thanks for joining me tonight. I know they've been carrying on a little bit longer, but there's just a lot to say. And next week we will start chapter 2, which is reparenting that inner child inside of us. Okay, I'll start on that one. Thanks for joining me. Everybody have a super, super blessed week. If nobody loves you today, remember, Randy does, but more importantly, God does. Be blessed all.